Call the meeting to order at 6:31. I think welcome everybody to the meeting, and I think we ought to give a nice congratulations to all of the Red Sox fans in the world. They've had one of the best weekends they've ever had.
You got that right.
We'll get you. There's lots of baseball left to go.
No comment. There was a sale yesterday, had Lowe's on brooms.
Yeah, they were all out, right? All right, the second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the regular meeting held on August 8th and the special meeting held on August 3rd.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting August 8th and the special meeting August 3rd.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is audience of citizens. Nothing. There you go.
Marco.
Besides the
Marco.
besides the 7 tons of compost, food scraps that were collected for compost in July, what's the waste management reduction committee kind of doing? Or are you coming up with any ideas yet? Or
That's a good question. Yep. There's a lot of conversation. Just the last meeting that they had Waste Zero, who has been our consultant for this project, came and presented and gave some direction on how best to move forward once February comes and the grant runs out, and there are other options that the committee is exploring. Most all of them tend towards a pay-as-you-throw type of program. I don't know the details well enough to really talk about them very much here tonight, other than to say that it's where somehow or another the person using the transfer station will purchase the bags at some level or another, and use only those bags will be used to throw garbage into the dumpster, the hopper, the compactor. The concept behind that, and it's worked, and I think they're doing this up in Mansfield, they're doing it in Stonington, and the group is going to visit a couple of different transfer stations that are already doing this to see how it works. We're going to talk to the other selectmen and other boards of finance and see how it's working for them. But across New England and across the country, this is becoming more and more the go-to method of reducing the amount of trash that goes into the landfills by charging per bag. This is what my understanding of the concept is. By charging per bag, you are encouraging people to change their behavior and pull garbage out of the bag. Mm-hmm. So they'll work more towards recycling, more towards composting, more towards other things that take the tonnage out of the bags that go into the landfills. And that really is the whole concept. Connecticut, I think, in 2 years will have no more landfills working. All of the burn to energy plants are aged to where they're at their life expectancy or a little beyond. So they're anticipating that is there's just nowhere to go with any of the garbage. The best case that DEP has come up with right now is to reduce. And while I agree with that, and I think the town needs to get in front of that, it will save us a tremendous amount of money. It also, the state needs to get on that ball as to what we can do. What are the alternatives to besides just reducing? Because even if we reduce 40%, we've still got 60% of the garbage is going to be trucked out to Ohio or Pennsylvania or wherever it goes. So there's a lot of work for the state to do. This committee is working hard, and I anticipate, I want to say it was September 21st, but it might be September 14th, there's going to be a first information meeting for the community to be invited to get more information from Waste Zero, from the committee, and some public input on feedback on what the thoughts are thus far. Don't hold me to that date. That'll get published pretty quickly. I think next week we meet again, and that'll step up from there. The idea is, and we've seen it already, the amount of tonnage that is going through the transfer station has been reduced. I think just the 800 or so families that are participating in the food scraps, But just as importantly, everybody who's aware of what's going on has become more aware, and we're seeing recycling increase, less going into the hoppers. So we're in the right direction so far.
And we're in the pilot program. Deep River's the leading community, so it seems like we have the public interest enough to keep it going.
Yeah, there seems to be some enthusiasm for it. So we'll see. It's all going to go. There's going to be I think they're planning 2 public information sessions, and then it will come to the Board of Selectmen to see if we want to move it forward with whatever they suggest. If we do, then we move it to a town meeting to vote on how that happens. And I think the intended date for that vote is December 7th.
Is there gonna be any more grants available?
That's one of the reasons why we're accelerating this. The program that we're involved in now doesn't end until February 1, but there are bridge grants that will carry us from February 1 through to our beginning of the fiscal year, and will help us with some of this other work. So yeah, if the sooner we get to where we're going to go, the sooner we can apply for a grant. Anything else? Carol?
I have a question about the paving at the Veterans Way here.
Mhm.
Like, so what is the rationale or the benefit to doing the epoxy filling in the seam and sealing the top? Like, it
Well-
seems like a different method.
Yeah, it's an experiment. It seems like it worked pretty well. The epoxy that fills the cracks is actually harder and is probably going to live longer than the pavement that's there. While there were a couple of spots that needed to be patched, I don't think the road needed to be milled and repaved. So this was an experiment to see if this epoxy works and holds. It was fairly inexpensive, much less expensive than paving or than even chip sealing. So it was an opportunity to try and fill the cracks with a different material. That's a least expensive option, and part of that will hopefully add to the life of veterans, the pavement that's there. So it should buy us 5 or 7 years before we have to look at it again.
What was the difference between regular paving, traditional paving job versus this, like square footage, square yards, square mile?
Go ahead.
Triple probably,
Yeah.
to do
triple the
it?
cost.
I would say at
We
least.
milled it and
Yeah.
the whole thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I would say at least. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting to watch them. They were like taping things on the curb so they wouldn't.
Oh no, it was great. That was a big part of the process.
Such
Was making
detail.
sure.
Yeah.
because Usually the paving guys are just,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
their paving crews.
Mhm.
Interesting.
We actually, I would suggest that the experiment that we tried on Kelsey Hill was successful, and I hope that the projects continue. By we treated that pavement last year, patched the major places that needed work, and this year chip sealing. It really should add about 10 years to that road, and that's a heavily trafficked road. So I think it's a good option for us to keep our roads healthier longer. Anything else? Okey-dokey. Next item up is appointments. We have another person who would like to join the Parks and Recreation Commission, Mary Renee Lamarck Muir. So,
I'll make a motion to appoint Mary Renee Lamar Muir to the Park and Rec Commission, term to expire 12/1/2023.
I second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is something I'm not sure what we have to do, so I guess we'll take a vote just to go through it. But we had some appointments to the Deep River Sustainable Connecticut Group. These folks may have attended a few meetings, but haven't attended in over a year. They're not replying. I think that they were all asked if they would like to continue, and they all said no. So we're just going to rescind the appointments rather than they didn't. None of them sent in a resignation, so we're just going to pull the appointments back.
They all of them agreed to it,
Yeah.
basically, with the chair of the sustainable.
Yeah. So I would like to entertain a motion to rescind the appointments of Michelle Giddens, Lindsay Gustafson, and Molly Flukinger. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to rescind the appointments of Michelle Giddens, Lindsay Taylor Gustafson, and Molly Flukinger.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And thank you for any efforts that they did make over the time. Next item on the agenda is tax refunds from the tax collector. This month we have 3 refunds that need to go out, totaling $2,547.35.
You wrote the number down before I could.
I'll make a motion, tax refunds, 3 of them, in the amount of $2,547.35.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes. I want to talk, at least introduce you all to something that's just starting up. You know, we just got a new fire truck, and that fire truck is now in the process of being decommissioned. What we do with that fire truck is kind of the question. We've had, I've done some research, I'm sure the fire department has done some research. There seems to be a fire truck of that vintage is worth, on the market that I can find anyway, about $20,000. So,
I would say on the high side.
yeah, I would guess,
That's on
but
the high
that's what
side.
I'm looking at, because I'm just looking at how do we get
Yeah.
rid of it.
Yep,
You know, so
absolutely.
where there's a group out of Maine, I think, that kind of brokers trucks. That vintage is looks like we could get something for about 20,000. So that maybe that's high, maybe that's a little low.
Yeah.
I think it's probably high. So the first effort, I think, is going to go into selling it. The second effort is to find a need, a community that needs that truck, and regardless of the fact that it's 30 years old and an open cab, will be happy to have it and to contribute it to them. There's a group out of Chicago who are moving fire trucks and ambulances, emergency vehicles over to the Ukraine to support those, because I guess the fire departments and the emergency services are being targeted over there. There's another thought to find a community here in the States. I'm even Steven on any of it. It should go to a town, a community, a place that needs it and that wants it, that hasn't gotten anywhere except for a conversation at this point. But I think it's something, because I think there may be a pretty good split on where we go, and I'm not sure that it is a town-owned vehicle. So the town should have to decide where it goes if there does become sort of any resistance to one or the other. So just a heads up that that's something that's in the wind and should be happening soon. We don't have a place to keep it.
It's being kept up.
It's up at the garage, but
Up in the
winter
garage.
time's coming, and we need to move stuff inside. So that space is going to disappear. So that was just a point of information.
Any organizations looking to do anything for Maui?
I have not heard.
Yeah, that's,
I have
I've heard that, yeah.
Okay, keep it in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's look
I'll
at
go
that.
talk feed-
That's what I mean.
feed your
There's-
home first.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and
yeah.
that's this part of the sentiment. You know, there's some sentiment that is, Ukraine is
Absolutely.
it's a need.
That was,
but there's
uh,
also the sentiment that here in the United States is a place. And certainly, that would be the easiest, but finding that place is the question.
I think finding someone to buy the truck is going to be
Yeah,
more difficult,
yeah,
and it probably would be a collector. And a collector is just going to, if the collector gets it, they're going to put it in their collection, and it'll never be used as a fire
Yeah.
truck again.
yeah.
So, giving it to a worthy community here or abroad, whatever,
Yeah.
I think is the proper, because Deep River has done that in the past.
Yeah, the last one I think we donated to the school up in,
That was at Bradley, the fire school at
Yeah,
Bradley
yeah.
Airport. And there were, I think in the way back, there's a rural community in Maine, that some of our old ones.
okay.
So we
Yeah, no,
have a precedent of doing that. And
Yeah.
like I said, I think the only person that would want it, or persons that would want to pay for it, would be a collector. And that's not using
Right.
a perfectly good fire truck.
Well, and that's what I actually do think that is something that we ought to talk about as a community.
Yeah.
That truck, if another community can use it for another 10 or 15 years, we ought to get it to them.
Yeah.
Rather than sitting in a garage or being made into a pizza truck or something. Okay. Well, that's what I have. If you guys are all set, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn at 6:46.
Got a second?
Second?
Second.
All right,
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
It's the motion that never fails.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, August 22nd. This is a special meeting of the Deep River Board of Finance. Because it is a special meeting, we are somewhat limited in our ability, our flexibility in talking about things. The agenda has 5 items on it. I'm going to suggest to you 2 of them, the call to order and the adjournment we won't consider with any great weight. So I'm going to say we have 3 things to talk about. To be assured that we're all comfortable, Joyce, would you read to us at least the 3 that we're going to spend our time on? Or you can throw in call to order and adjournment if you'd like. So,
Well, you called it to order.
yes.
The next agenda item is discuss and act on a general obligation note not to exceed $500,000 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen for the purchase of a street sweeper, wood chipper, SCBA apparatus, and issuance costs.
Correct. Okay. Is that the Board of Selectmen has already acted on that
We
recommendation?
did that 2 weeks ago.
You did, actually 2 weeks ago. Excellent, good. All right. All right, it is very, did you say the road improvement? Did you read all 3?
Oh, no, I only read the second item on the
Second and
agenda.
third, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, just the second one. I'll read the next one when you get to it.
Well, because I think it blends into the first, potentially could blend.
Oh, God, don't do that. Make it separate. All right. The third one is discuss and act on the establishment of an open space fund. And the fourth is discuss and possibly act on additional funding for road improvements.
That's good. Now, because the initial agenda had those first 2 items, and Angus requested that we had put let's call it the fourth, but it is discuss the additional funding for road improvement, the sequence. It is very possible that as we talk about these things, folks may wish to join the discussion of whether we should use financing with how we are using excess cash. 2 could go together if you so wish them to be. Right? I will start off on the first just to keep the momentum going that I started. I am in favor of issuing financing. I believe that it is appropriate to take long-term assets, long-term tools used by our town employees to provide benefits to citizens currently and in the future, that we should finance them with a long-term source of cash for the acquisition. I also believe that the current cash we have today should be used to meet current operations, meet any surprises, and to give us the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities. So I think the 2 are separate. But that is an attempt to start this conversation. Does anyone have any thoughts on the fight? Let's say keep our thoughts on the first one, certainly the financing. But if you need to grab the third one, that is useful as well. Thoughts? Anyone?
I feel like we agreed to this last month, that was the way to go.
If you did, I did not.
Okay.
I thought there was still uncertainty on whether we should proceed with the financing.
Well, I think the question that I had was about the financial software package. And I don't see that that's in here.
No, that's
So that'll
that's
be,
been removed, yeah.
Okay.
That is going to be another conversation for you all and with us to have, is how do we fund that?
okay.
But we're in a period of transition up there. We're not certain right now what software we're going to need.
Okay.
And there was enough conversation about it last month that we thought to take it out of this borough.
Excellent. That did happen last month. We have, Angus and I are not recommending proceeding with that. If you were to look in an accountant's manual, you would probably consider the life of a software, accounting software, to have a life of about 5 years. I'm uncomfortable with that because if you enter into a contract to provide your software, there will be periodic updates. But since we do not know what software, we have yet to identify someone who would probably lead that task for us. And the amount we're getting, we could probably be able to fund out of surplus. So that is the reason we took it out, which would also bring down the potential magnitude of our financing by about $20,000 or so. So, any other thoughts, ideas?
On just that issue or just overall?
Well, let's start with the first one, and I am confusing you, so you have the right to talk about anything you want.
Okay, so the computer software will be at a later time?
Correct.
Okay. Would the same be for the oxygen tanks for the fire department?
No, that's in, if you have a resolution in front of you, that is in this resolution now.
$30,000.
You have an explanation?
Well, I see that, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah, you
loan
have
we
it.
want to is for what, 20 years?
We are chatting with two banks between 10 and
10 to
15.
15?
And if you look at the explanation here, I should not ask you to read it, but I can tell you, the pack, the Scott pack has a life of 20 years, and the air tanks have a life of 15 years. This particular borrow will be for air packs, mostly. There are a couple of masks, but the cans have already been purchased, and these will be just for air packs, which has a life of 20 years.
So
At the end of this, if we move forward with this and the town agrees, then the next time we'll be buying Scott packs, unless we get a large influx in volunteer firemen or a disaster and we lose some, will be 2041. The borrow that we're looking at, just to skip ahead a little bit, Bud was communicating with one lender, I was communicating with Dime Bank. We don't have a commitment from them yet, but what he told me was that interest rates right now for a 10-year loan will be 5.8%, 5.9%, somewhere in there, and a 15-year loan is going for 6% right now.
And I'm working with M&T. I get a kick out of it. I asked them, what does M&T stand for? Hold on. Anyway, side thing. And I'm getting about the same rate, slightly higher, but as we get closer. So I think that, which would put us, I don't know, somewhere in the $80,000 range for an annual obligation to obtain these kind of things. Now, I'm going to ask Angus to tell you the same thing you told me. If we did not acquire these and we were required to periodically rent a sweeper, periodically rent a wood chipper, could you share the numbers you had shared with me today? They about hit the same numbers.
It does come out about the same. To sweep the streets of Deep River as often as we do is going to cost us in the vicinity of, I don't know, 60,000, 50,000. We go out 3 times a year. When we rent to Chester, it's about a $20,000 rental. So that's between communities. I don't know, it could be higher, could be lower. To rent a chipper, it really depends on how much we need it, but renting a chipper is going to cost us probably $10,000 over the course of the year. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. If we have a big storm, it'll cost us a lot more.
So taking that, I'm suggesting the cost of the financing of actually owning them is about what the current cost of periodically renting them. Plus, we would lose out on opportunity costs that we get from, I don't know, sharing it with Chester and that type of thing.
Yep.
So,
Would you have an increase in your insurance and maintenance and overhead?
Slight. We already have
we already have them,
them.
that's why I think it's got to be.
So I think that would be a slight change.
But the value of the equipment goes up significantly, so the insurance costs will go up.
You would think that. I'm not sure that that's how it works. We learned a lesson with the fire equipment this year that really surprised me with insuring our fire equipment.
But the maintenance cost will drop.
The maintenance cost will
Correct.
drop significantly.
Substantial, yeah.
Right. So the wood chipper, just so I understand, that was to be used during emergencies in the streets in order to quickly.
Keep the streets clear as quickly as we can.
So it's not a piece of equipment for the transfer station for,
No, not at all. Not at all. That's highway department, 100%.
so it's incidental use.
Mhm.
And one concern I had as far as renting it is if you need one and it's a storm, what's the chances of being able to get one? Because somebody might already, there might not be one to rent.
Yeah.
Thus,
What,
streets.
what would you do in that case if you couldn't get one? You just
Well, what they probably do is cut it up and try and move the stuff off to
put
the
it to the
side.
side of the road until you
Open
get
to
one?
the road and then come back and chip it later.
That's the first step anyway.
Yeah.
What we had to do with, I want to say it was ICASIS. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the last major tropical storm that came through here, we had to hire tree guys to come in. And then we ended up renting their second machine so that we could get the roads as clear as quickly as we could. So we were renting from them as well as hiring them to do the same work.
So the wood chipper we have at the dump can't be used.
We do not have a wood
We don't
chipper.
have one.
What happens to all that brush down there?
We hire someone to come
That's
in.
hired.
Someone comes in and grinds that
Yeah.
and takes it away. It becomes topsoil.
Major
get
piece,
revenue
Totally
from that?
different.
yeah, major piece of equipment. Wow.
No,
Get any
no.
revenue from it at all? So
No,
we
it
supply
costs us-
the wood and they profit from it?
Well, it's part of the package that they bid on to grind it up.
Grind it up and take it away. We have no place for it and we don't have permits for keeping it.
But two separate.
But
two
very,
separate
very,
Machines to do two separate tasks. This
Very
is, like I said, if a tree falls down on your road there, onto the wall, cut it and chip it up. And they do their general maintenance throughout the season, for years, they cut the brush, put it in the back of the dump truck, bring it there. Now they can just grind it up quickly. So I
And use
think, I've been an advocate for this for a long time.
yeah.
First, couple reasons, for public safety, number one, and two, for the safety of the town employees. You know, someone throws out their back one time, workman's compensation would eat that up in no time. You know, you can only throw brush up on a truck so long, and I don't care how strong you are, how old, how young, it's gonna catch up to you. That's my thing that I advocate for.
Okay, so just so I understand the chippers and where they're being deployed, the one that we are considering today is for use on our streets in the event of a storm and trees come down and the wood is chopped up and taken away and what?
We'd probably use it. No, if that, we'd probably store up at the town garage.
Okay, and the wood chipper that's at the dump, we don't have one at the dump.
That's a
private.
subcontractor, that's a private contractor that does that.
And so what have we been doing in the meantime if we don't have a wood chipper here?
Cutting the brush and putting it in the back of the dump truck and driving down to the dump and dumping it.
And then that
Or-
person comes and grinds it up?
Correct.
Or pay that tree guy with his chipper to come in and we're paying out of our town budget to have them chip and haul.
Can I ask about the air packs, the 5 air packs that they're, or I guess 3 more, and the 2 that they already have funding for? Are those in addition to what's on this list?
Pardon me?
The 5 air packs that they're
Two.
buying? From the email I'm
It's fine,
seeing,
it's
it's
fine.
like, they're using ARPA funds to buy for 3, and then we're gonna buy 2 more with this 30,000, correct?
Right.
Is that in addition to these?
No, if you see the highlighted ones, the highlighted 5 at the bottom,
Yep.
those are the 5 that they're.
So why are we replacing them 3 years early?
As is explained here, there are, actually, he doesn't explain it.
It doesn't.
He doesn't. Okay. It's in another email, yep. Yeah, as they explained to us during the ARPA conversation, the packs are not compatible with each other. The equipment, there you go. Yeah, the packs are not compatible with each other. So when 2 people are in, if one guy has an emergency, they can buddy up.
The old ones you can't.
Yeah. There are other improvements that have been made on them, but I think the safety issue is really the biggest concern for me. And frankly, I just think I honestly believe that this wraps this thing up that's been going on now for, really, we've been talking about these for 3 years, and we've been funding them throughout that time. And this really does sew us up until.
So when do they decide that still have 3 years life expectancy?
My guess is that they will keep them or until they are aged out.
They'll probably use them for training and things like that.
Are the new packs compatible with mutual aid? So if Essex, Chester, or another community comes in, they'd be able to share this?
That actually was one of their comments at the ARPA meeting when they were asking. And actually, they came back again asking when originally took this out of the budget. When it approved for the ARPA funding, we took it out. They came back and said, wait, this is not just in our own fire department. When we do mutual aid, we also are not compatible anymore with 50%.
And the masks, are those disposable masks? So if they go in and they use them, do they
I
discard
don't
them?
know. I don't think so. I think it's all one pack.
Yeah, masks are,
They're
they-
usable?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're cleaned and reused.
Jim, how often do they use masks, those ear packs and stuff like that?
Those
Is
are,
it-
it's for basically interior firefighting.
They use it every time they go in, right?
Every time they go in a building, if there's any smoke, any issues with smoke at all, I mean, like DRP, the Deep River Pizza, they had a fan or something, you know, they have to.
So our town would use them on an average, how often are they used? Once a year, twice a year, 5 times a year?
Depends how many fires.
Depends on-
It just depends on what
They
type.
came to my house when the
Did they
smoke
use it?
alarms went off
Did
in
they use the
their,
packs?
in the packs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your fire alarm goes off in your house, they're gonna come into your house wearing a mask.
That's correct.
So it just depends on that type of call. If they're, I mean, even a wreck on Route 9, there's gas fumes, potential fire, and all that, they will approach the car masked up. If there's that percent. They use them, they use quite a bit.
Okay.
But the ones they have now, the outdated ones still work, they just can't buddy up with each other
Correct.
if all 25 of them or 30 of them go in the building at the same time.
And that's why the ones that aren't up to code, not code, but aren't up to that don't.
They're still work, they're still
Yeah,
certified,
and
they
they'll-
can still
And they'll
work.
probably use them, because I know that the firemen will go to various towns and train. They have artificial smoke rooms where they can send guys in and that have never been in a burning building before. They can put that older style on for training purposes, where you don't want them in a real thing when you need the sheriff. I used to be an interior firefighter. When that bell goes off in your airbag, it's a, oh crap moment.
So if we're not sure of the interest rate yet, right, we don't have an interest rate, and being that this is $30,000, would it make more sense to find another way to pay for it instead of adding it to borrow the money? Because what's gonna be the final cost of this $30,000 for these Scott packs? It's not gonna be $30,000. I mean, there's still $15,000 of ARPA money that was discretionary for Jaws of Life and stuff like that.
I don't know if there is or not. I haven't looked at what they've spent and what they haven't spent from the ARPA funds, because we gave it to them to spend. I can't argue with you about this. I believe this is the right.
No, and I'm all for equipment, don't get me wrong, it's just the $15,000 of discretionary money was supposed to be for Jaws of Life and emergency equipment.
And my guess is that it was. I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I know we had the conversation a month ago. I did not look into what they spent it on. But I can tell you that I don't think that stretching out that $30,000 over 15 years is going to hurt the town in any way.
And based on what Bud says, you know, there's a 20-year life expectancy for these, so it kind of makes sense to borrow for them.
They'll be
Even
almost
though it's only
done.
30,
They'll
right,
be almost
exactly,
done for
but
20
that's,
years.
right. But then, if you look at the dates, in 20 years, we're gonna be borrowing a whole lot of money to buy, because they're all coming due within
Yeah.
a couple of
Yeah.
years of each other. So something to think about with our thinking
Well,
about.
that's
We're
what,
better planning to replace them sooner
Yeah.
than later.
So they're staggered more when they buy them.
Well, it's too late now, because they're
The
all coming due
technology's
41,
gonna
and it'll,
change.
exactly.
Well, a lot of this is technology driven. The fire industry is in the
Yeah.
police industry. There's all kinds of different things that keep different regulations and mandates and all that kind of stuff and training. And so 5 years from now, they might, even though we say 43, there might be something new that has to be implemented and we're gonna start all over again possibly. But for right now, it's, you know, to the standards that are that are there now.
I guess, do you have the resolution that our attorneys have recommended
You
to?
don't have it in front of you.
Jackie has?
So we need to make a motion to approve the resolution as written.
You were the holder of the.
If I didn't,
Oh,
if
am I
I
the only
didn't
one that
pass
has
them
it?
out to
I thought we
everybody,
all
then I'm sorry.
Jackie is going to read.
I have
Oh,
it
gosh, I
here.
have my glasses. I'm not sure I can.
Dramatic reading by Jackie.
Resolved that the Board of Finance recommends that the town of Deep River appropriate up to $500,000 for the purchase of the following town assets. $330,000 for one street sweeper, $100,000 for one wood chipper, $30,000 for self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department, and $30,000 for costs of issuance. Wow. The appropriation may be expended for the purchase costs and related equipment, legal and administrative fees, interest expense on temporary borrowing, and other costs related to the purchase. The amount authorized to be expended for each purchase shall not exceed the amount set forth in this resolution, provided that the Board of Selectmen may, after approval of the Board of Finance, transfer unexpended funds among purchases so long as the total appropriation and bond authorization is not increased. The Board of Selectmen may reduce the scope of any purchase if funds are insufficient to complete the entire purchase, and the entire appropriation may be spent on the reduced purchase.
Thank you. That is our resolution sending it to the town. The town resolution will seek authority to issue a bond. Is it a range, Angus, or is it no more than 15 years and a rate no higher than?
The town does not speak to that at all. It authorizes the first selectman and the town treasurer to determine the terms.
Oh, that's right.
conditions,
The resolution currently do not restrict either term or not. It authorizes the first selectman and the treasurer to select the term. Okay. All right. I do expect those terms to be no more than 15 and
No.
rates not to exceed.
No.
And
No,
the market is somewhat uncertain at the moment, so.
Yeah, I won't let Tom push that at all.
These rates are actually probably, well, considering what we've gotten before from Dime Bank, we just paid off that boiler loan.
Yep.
And that was actually for 7 years at 2.75, so these
Wow.
rates are like, twice of what we
Yep.
Having said that, I know, Bud, you had contacted M&T Bank, but we have a pretty good history with Dime Bank.
Mhm.
And if the rates are the same, I would probably recommend that we use Dime Bank. I don't know if we're.
Right now, Dime is a little bit lower.
I think-
So,
Right
and
now,
I
dime is
feel
a
the
little
same.
bit lower, that is correct. And
Yeah, they've always.
the resolution will allow you and Angus to do it. I could come up with an argument that there is logic to not putting all of your eggs in one basket, but time will tell how we get close to that.
We do have a good relationship with that bank.
Yes, correct.
So is this a time-sensitive issue? If we wait and wait and wait on it, the rates increase and
Well, they
there's
could,
no,
yeah, they could, they certainly
there's
could,
no
but yeah, I don't
thing in
think.
here that says we
Yeah,
can't exceed
right,
such and such a rate.
I don't think this is a locked-in rate, you were just going to get what the
just
estimates
indicative
are,
rate,
so of course
that
they
is
could,
correct.
they could
That's
change.
why I'm not asking, that's why we didn't ask the Board of Selectmen today, and not asking you today to set a town meeting, because we don't have locked in anything yet from them. We have an email that said the rates right now are this, but we needed to provide them with some information, we needed to give them our audit, we needed to give them all our information. I expect that we'll have that next week, and in a couple of weeks, we'll schedule the town meeting. If you guys vote to do this, we'll schedule the town meeting for 2 weeks following that.
And there's no prepayment penalty, I take it, there hasn't been in the past.
No, there is not. You'll see everything, and,
I'm uncomfortable with voting for a $500,000 loan, not knowing what I'm gonna pay for it. And if that meeting's not called for several weeks, what if the rates go up to, what are they for mortgages, 7.2 now?
we will have our information from the bank, I anticipate next week. That will be locked in for a certain amount of time. I'm gonna guess that would be 30 days. Following that, the Board of Selectmen will move this to a town meeting, where the town can provide us with input and vote on what we're putting in front of them.
Could we amend the resolution to include not to exceed a certain percentage?
I would
so
like to
it's a
see
little
that
more
in there, yeah.
Comfortable.
And the amount of, the rate of interest depends on how long you take the loan for, right?
Yes, it was 5.87 for
For 10
10
years.
years and 6 for 15 years.
Yeah, the longer the term, the higher the rate.
It's higher than what Button indicated here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what he wrote there,
Yeah.
but
So it's
that
already
was,
gone up.
see, it's moved up since 2 weeks
And it
ago
will
when we got that
continue to
information,
move
and it's
up.
going to continue to do that.
Yeah. So taking action, I think, is a good prudent next step, but I think limiting our exposure to that percentage increase should be
And
amended.
what would our rate of repayment per year be at a 10-year note? You had a figure in,
I had 5.5 is what I initially sent to you, but it's gone up a little bit.
and it was 72,000 or something in that area?
Yes, year, that's correct. It was my estimate at the 5.5. All right, Board of Finance, Jackie has dramatically read a resolution. Does anyone wish to
I'd love those
put
numbers.
that resolution, adopt that resolution?
So how do we amend this?
To do
include
what?
Rate,
To do
an
what?
interest rate, a limit on an interest rate.
You're gonna add a not to exceed interest rate?
Copy of the
Yeah.
resolution.
All right, what do you wanna make that?
With the item
Not to exceed 6%.
If the market moves tomorrow, 2 points, we can't issue 6 points, we gotta start all over again. You really wanna do that? You
Then
have the
maybe
right.
you have to eliminate some of the stuff, so you're not borrowing as much money, so you don't go up to 7 or 8% interest.
That is what,
And you're not, excellent point, but you're really not going to borrow for a chipper or a street cleaner if it goes up a basis point? What are you gonna do, not live with us?
If I were to choose between the two, is that what you're asking me?
I actually chatted with Angus, we should have it in there, except, what are we gonna do? Not proceed with this financing? If it goes up 50 basis points?
So let me.
How about we go 6.5, which is the highest rate they're giving us, and gives us 50 basis points to play with? Our concern is it just locks us in, and you've got, the resolution will give Angus and Tommy the authority to say yes or no.
It's not like we're gonna die if we don't have this equipment like that. So if you have to put it off and wait a little bit longer, maybe rates will go down.
Or,
I think what I'm gonna ask,
Yes.
what I'm gonna ask.
I
is that-
agree, we're not gonna die, but we're gonna get pretty uncomfortable.
I'm going to ask that the Board of Finance have confidence that the town treasurer and the first selectman will bring to the town the lowest possible rates that we can. And my hope is that those lowest possible rates that we can will be what we were told today, maybe a smidgen higher. If this goes to the town at an 8%, then you have every opportunity to get in front of the town and say, this is too high of an interest rate, I don't think we should do it. Not just as a member of the citizens, but as a Board of Finance, you'll be up there in front of everybody. I think, at least in my conversation with the attorney who wrote these resolutions, he said, this is how the resolutions are written. There has to be some confidence between boards and people that that they're going to do the right thing. The interest, everything that has been addressed here, Tom and I are going to keep in mind when we're talking with the bank. And if the interest rate goes too high, we will come back and say, hey, it's too high.
And what's too high?
I just heard 8% was too high. I don't know. Too high for me would probably be 6.5. But I don't know. I don't know. We are going to save money, regardless of the fact that we're buying this. We're saving money. The town needs the equipment. Is it life or death? No. Is it comfort? Absolutely.
So putting in a restriction on interest isn't in our best interest?
I don't believe it is. The attorney does not believe that it is because the market is very fluid. If this was 3 years ago, we could be pretty confident that the market was not going anywhere. Right now, the interest rates are on the way up, and they're doing so rapidly.
How quickly can you lock in?
Well, as soon as he's got the work, he's got all the information. The bank It's got to put they've got to get together and do what banks do. Don could probably speak to that better than I can. I would hope that by next week we will be locked in.
We will have a window on that lot.
Yeah, we'll have, yeah. We'll have, I'm gonna guess we'll have 30 days.
And how does that impact our bond rating by going into more debt?
It helps.
It does?
Yeah, we are, Bud has spoken about this at different meetings across time. Deep River is very low in debt, and the percentage that we are compared to other communities, we are very, very low in what we borrow for things. We've had the benefit of grants, we've had a lot of benefit over the years, and we've also done without for many years. We have gotten ourselves into a great position where we have got a reserve fund of 12, 13, 11%. That's almost where the state recommends, but it's where we want to be. We are in a position now where borrowing is the right thing for us to do. It's what our auditors talk to us about. It's what, when I go to workshops, borrowing is, as Bud explains it, I'll use the anecdote that Bud always says, we are buying things that the town will benefit from for over a lifespan of 15, 20, 30 years. It seems out of whack to ask people today to pay for something that they may not be here to enjoy 15 years from now, for those 15 years. Borrowing is the way that municipalities, that states, and that governments fund capital in particular.
You know, as I said before, we did just pay off the boiler payment at the elementary school. If I'm looking at some of our debt, the sewer construction bonds, which actually were taken out in 2006, that actually matures in 2026.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's on the horizon too. So, so, you know, really, we don't have a lot of upstanding debt,
No.
to be
No,
quite
we
honest
don't.
with you. That was our biggest, that sewer construction bond. I mean, we have the capital improvements borrow that we just took out with Dime Bank. We have the Kirtland River Street sewer project expansion, which actually has, I think, around 33 more payments to go. And then we have a Kirtland River Street sewer project. That was a big one. That was taken out for $2,910,000 for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that goes to like 2016 to 2055. So that would be the largest bond issue that we have after the sewer construction.
And that was a USDA loan.
Yes, it was. Yes, yeah. A couple of these were USDA loans.
Board of Finance, we're gonna send this to the town.
I just have one more.
Yes, well, please.
There's a lot of grant money out there for first responder equipment. Have we looked into maybe some grant money to offset so we don't have to finance this?
They've been unsuccessful the last 3 years with that grant application.
Okay, so we looked into it, there's no grant money for this.
We've attempted 3 years in a row to obtain that grant money. We filled out the application, we sent it in, and we're unsuccessful.
Okay.
I've been looking into other grants, but the state grants that we've been able to take advantage of for the buildings and such, that do not grant for this type of thing.
So with the new street sweeper, is there any cash value on the old one that could be, I have no idea what that one's worth. but-
I would be surprised that is, I think recycling is the best thing to do with that.
Bring it right up the metal man.
Ronnie Larson could, or some of the farmers could use the sweeps for the cows to scratch on, but I don't think
There's no cash value.
That thing
Well,
has
for
given us.
scrap there is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Calamaris?
That has
Jim, I
given
thought
us,
you could use it in your store.
it has given us more than it ever should have.
All right, I need a first, second, or,
I'll make a motion.
you're gonna do first?
Yeah.
Okay, you read it, so,
Yes.
can I get a second for Jackie's resolution? In favor of sending this to town?
I second it.
Yeah, all those in favor of forwarding this to the town,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right,
Wait a minute, we only have 2 ayes.
Only have 2 ayes?
I didn't hear those.
no,
Against.
did you count the ayes?
You yes?
Look like we're in.
Yes, oh, okay.
No, no,
All right.
I'm against.
Oh, you're
You're
against,
against?
so 3 ayes and
Aye.
1 nay?
Yep.
Yeah,
And are you,
I don't vote.
well, okay. Since you don't need to, okay.
Resolution passes, send it to the town.
Okay, we will, as soon as we get some commitment, we'll certainly, Bud will let you all know that we have that commitment, and I will, the Board of Selectmen will address it.
Could I just ask one more question before
Sure.
this goes away? Just another thing. My vote was with the assumption that you're going to keep the interest rate
Mm-hmm.
at no higher than 6.5.
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
We will come back to you.
And is that, what are you looking for the term? Is that like a 15-year term? Or did it-
15 is the higher
That would
rate.
be the 6.5 probably.
Right, and 10 years is a lower rate.
Right, the higher, right, the longer the term, the higher the rate. Is, I mean, is that what you're looking for, a 15-year term?
I'm looking for a lower rate of interest.
Not to exceed 6.5. Okay.
Do your magic.
All right, so there is an implied addendum to the approval, not to exceed 6.5 unless you return to the Board of Finance.
Understood.
Okay?
But that's not written into the resolution, that's.
No, but it is our implied intent, as I think, to the treasurer. Cool. All right, let us move on to item 2. And I'm going to let Angus introduce the variations in this topic.
Okay, our Planning and Zoning Commission and our zoning regulations for many, many years have required a contribution to open space for any subdivision of land. There is a caveat in there that the Planning and Zoning Commission may, or the applicant for the subdivision may, apply for relief from the contribution of land and make a donation of a fee in lieu of. What that comprises is, I think that the requirement is 15% of the land that's being subdivided needs to be donated to open space or put into some sort of conservation area. The town, thus far, has not taken advantage of the fee in lieu of. In fact, I think sometimes has rejected a request for the fee in lieu of. We just had a subdivision where the land that was potential to be donated to the town or to put into conservation wasn't connected to anything, didn't have any value. So the town Planning and Zoning Commission requested and obtained a fee in lieu of. That amounted to $147,000. Connecticut state statute requires that money go into a fund that is dedicated to the acquisition or maintenance of open space. We don't have that fund, so we need you to create that fund. We will put that check into that fund, and coincidentally, there is a piece of land for sale on Rattling Valley Road that the Deep River Land Trust, Town of Essex, Gateway Commission are all contributing towards the purchase of. Some of this funds, the Planning and Zoning Commission guys requested some of this funds go towards that. And that will connect a greenway, if you will, a connection of different areas of open space, all the way from, I think it's Pratt's Cove over on Essex Street, all the way through to Canfield Woods and into Essex. So you could start on Essex Street at the Cove and walk on Land Trust or Nature Conservancy property and all the way through into Essex through different trail systems. I think it's a really cool opportunity. It couldn't be more fortuitous that it came at this time that we have this money that we can help contribute towards that. So.
And that money can only be used
Can
for
only
land
be used
trust
for land
stuff.
trust. Not land trust,
Well,
but open
open
space.
space.
Yep.
which is open to anybody in town at any time, and it's maintained by the,
It's maintained by whatever organization it takes control of it. This will probably be the Conservation Commission, Conservation Inland Wetlands Commission. It will be their first acquisition. Land Trust might have part of it, but they don't want it for one reason or another. I don't know the reason for that. But yes, it is open to the public, you know, once the trails are cut. I think there are restrictions as far as ATVs, but I think it's pedestrians, bikes, and dogs on leashes, I think, and maybe horses.
do you know if it would connect all the open spaces, all of the, like the trails? There's one off of River Road, there's one off of Rattling Valley Road, there's one off of,
Yeah, it will, like I said, it will connect to one that, the open space that connects to the Nature Conservancy that starts over by the observation near the bridge on Essex Street.
okay.
The land trust property on River Street over towards Essex, I don't believe
think
that's,
that goes-
I don't think that's connected. It goes up.
Yeah,
And,
I don't
and they
think
just, the land trust just obtained a big piece of property that doesn't quite connect to the road. So we're working with them on Buckingham, trying to get something on Buckingham. But that also goes into Essex, but I don't think it connects to Canfield Woods. I'm not certain of that. I haven't tried that hike yet.
It's just like a Christmas present.
This is a really good thing for the town. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Does the
Unless you're a
money-
land developer. and-
Does the money in the fund allow to collect interest? In other words, while it's sitting there before you make
Oh,
your
sure,
purchase? So
sure.
you can,
Yeah, we'll make sure Tommy puts it in a good frame.
7% or higher.
So the fund will be a town fund, a standalone town fund. And the selectmen will most likely, or you will agree, that the Conservation Commission will have first authority over it, and then we'll come to the
No,
selectmen. on
we're
decisions.
gonna wait and let the people who are acquiring the property come to us with a suggestion. of-
Selectmen, as opposed to, I thought you
Yeah,
were
no,
going
no,
to first come to conservation.
This, I
then
believe,
to-
I believe that the leanings right now are for this to go to the Conservation Commission. It's not my particular interest, but it is where it has come up in conversation thus far. But I think we'll all work together, and, you know, Gateway might have a piece of it. I think it should go to whoever operates and owns Canfield Woods, and that is the town, so.
Well, who has authority to say, yes, we like this request, we don't like this request?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by request. Talking about who's gonna say we want this piece of property?
Correct.
That would be if the Conservation Commission finds a piece of property and they want it, then they would have to sell it to the town. This is what we want.
It will be the selectmen who decide.
And when I say sell it, I mean market it to the town.
So would it have to go to a town meeting, or it's something that's like?
I believe any of this money that comes out of it, once it goes into the town, it has to.
If it's more than
it has to-
$5,000,
yeah, it has
it's gotta
be-
go to town meeting,
Has to
or
go to the
town-
town. I believe that that's the case. In this particular instance, this fund is restricted. It can only be spent for open space.
So we would see this as a line item in the budget every month? Is
I
this
think you'll see it in
Not see it in
You'll see it in
our-
Tom's reports.
We will not see it
Okay.
tomorrow. You will see it in Tommy's cash, but you will not, it will
Alright.
not come into our
Okay.
discretion. That's one of the questions I'm asking. Okay. Cool.
And you have any rough idea of that 137 that would possibly be spent?
Yeah.
I think the properties right now, I'm not sure, they're in negotiations, I'm not sure. I would guess roughly half.
I just know if it's gonna be all.
No, it's not gonna be all. We'll be left with a good chunk to get, it's good seed money. And I'm really excited that the commission has changed their thinking on it.
So I had misunderstood then what you said initially. If someone is putting in a subdivision, they are to set aside a certain amount of land to go into open space, but if they haven't been doing that, or planning and zoning hasn't had them doing that, so.
No, they have been doing
They
that.
haven't been taking
But they haven't been taking the fee in lieu of. So
So-
if someone came and did I'll tell you what, here's the great one. The last subdivision a major subdivision that came through Deep River was up on Hoop Hill Road. That property abuts the Cockaponset State Forest. So when they came in for a subdivision, on their map, they said, here's a bunch of open space. It's got a nice stream and got all this kind of stuff. But it also connects to Cockaponsett. So the town took that and donated it to the state. So the state park, that's managed by the state park now comes into what was going to be conservation or easement owned by the town, managed by the town, now it's owned and managed by the state. So that was an example of a big subdivision, 13 lot subdivision, that put a big chunk of land into open space. And that happens, but now take the other end of that. Let's say you've got 6 acres over off of Spring Street, it doesn't connect to anything. And there's just a big stream that goes through the middle of it. So you're gonna subdivide, you're gonna knock 3 lots out of that. You need to take 15% of that. You don't wanna take buildable areas, so you put it over where the wetlands are, way in the back. It's not connected to anything, it's just a chunk of land that doesn't do anything except for it can't be developed. The option of not doing that is, we don't want that. You guys put that in part of your lots. We want the money that is valued at.
And we haven't been doing that.
No, we have not been doing
Right,
that.
but we can now if you put.
If we put this fund, then we do. We have to set up this fund because we got
Yeah.
$147,000. We didn't know what to do with it.
So that would augment the $147,000, that money that we're not gonna use your wetlands land, you're instead going to give us money, land value.
Right,
Give us the
that's
money for
right.
that land
Yep,
value.
yep.
Okay, so once the money is in this fund, what do we do with that money?
We look for opportunities to spend it.
On,
Land,
On
but
land.
open space, more open space. Hopefully connected to other parks so we can expand our parks, expand our trail systems, expand the greenways, if you will.
So it just wouldn't be buying land that some subdivision has, it would be buying land that's
That has a purpose.
connected to some
Yeah.
farm someplace.
Yep. Land Trust has a great plan. This acquisition that we're talking about today is the culmination of a wonderful plan to connect the Connecticut River to whatever the name of that park is, I forgot. Canfield Woods, yeah. And that's where this kind of thing, where you can get the Planning Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Land Trust, and any other interested parties to really get together and say, hey, look at these, get a map and say, this is where all of our open spaces are. How can we connect them? How can we, where do we want to put more? Where is there a great vista that, you know, we might be able to get and have people be able to enjoy?
And any interest this fund earns stays in this fund.
Absolutely, yeah.
Could private citizens donate to the fund?
Mhm.
They could bequest legacy gifts.
Who are the signers on that? Would it just be strictly selecting,
I would think, as far as I'm concerned, it
or
would stay the
someone
same
from
like
the
this.
Conservation Commission or whatever?
No, I would suggest that it just be the same
Same
as
as
all
we
the others,
did,
yeah.
And who would have jurisdiction over what lands to buy? Conservation
The town.
Commission? Town?
The town.
Because again, if it's more than 5
It's
or
a lot of money.
10,000, it has to go to town meeting.
Yeah.
Does this have to go to a town meeting? Yes is my answer. No?
No, this is
We
just the
can
creation,
create
you're
it.
just creating a fund.
you're just creating.
All you're doing is creating a fund.
Oh, we don't have to take it to, the town does not approve, have to approve a new fund.
We're not spending it,
Not
we're
yet.
saving it,
Not yet.
taking it in.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we create the fund.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and so the third item on our agenda is, we've had this conversation, would you be willing to increase the current budget of $200,000 for road maintenance in our budget approved in May? Would you be willing to increase it by, we have talked about 100,000 to 150. Do you have any favorite number that you would like to talk about?
No, I think 100 is a good number, 150 will just give us another good
Now,
section.
you've been
of road.
talking with people who do roads for you. Under 150, do you have any favorite in there? More the merrier?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if we are inclined and the town is inclined, then 150 will get us more roads done this summer.
Makes sense. Now, here is the conundrum we're in. We do not know yet how much money, how much surplus we have, because we have not completed June 30 numbers.
Right.
What makes it a little bit more confusing is without an incumbent in our finance area, we have not been able to look at the budget, preliminary budget for June 30 since July. I believe, and we have no reason to believe that my preliminary numbers, ours of 635 is of surplus,
No.
is not a valid.
Now, we can be very confident in the revenues that we've spoken about in the meetings past. You know, we know that Tommy got us an extra $100,000 at least in interest this year than we budgeted because of the interest rates going up. We know that Kate collected an extra almost $200,000 in taxes. We know that and those were because we budget 98% collections. So she would collect 99%. That's a substantial amount of money. We know that we collected more revenues in building permits. That was another $100,000. And we know the conveyance taxes was another $100,000. So we've got at least $500,000 of revenue that we can be confident of.
Correct. Most of it comes from revenue.
And we know, and I'm comfortable with the fact that we're probably about $100,000 underspent.
That's about right, yeah.
And that's, as far as I'm concerned, $100,000 underspent on a $20 million budget is perfect.
So people could perceive us to be spending aggressively without a factual number.
Yeah.
You're relying upon
When will we have it?
conversation.
It is fact, though. I mean, we know those.
We know that
revenues.
it's there, but
Yeah.
yes.
What
I
we
can't
don't
confirm.
know is the actual
When
spend.
would we know?
Yeah.
Good
Is
question.
how you say
They
that?
used to come in
No.
August to get ready and would put together a schedule, said it would be December.
Yeah, we are.
That would be the most
Yeah.
earliest
Yeah.
we would have.
Mhm.
In years past, it has drag's not the right word, it's been delayed till 8 March or April.
Yeah.
And you said something about anticipating a cost from the school for outplacement on students. of
Last month's
150,000.
meeting, Angus introduced, that the school has introduced to him, that they could have pressure on their outplacement costs.
We have a, I think the best way to say that is in,
Unanticipated.
yeah, it's an unanticipated expense that we are mandated to pay, we can't not pay.
And they will most likely be required to come to us and ask for
Yeah.
an
We
additional.
have a meeting, I think, next week, scheduled with Brian.
Okay.
Is that next week? I don't know when it is, but it's on, you were made aware of it.
So we did simple math, gave Angus 150, gave the school 150. Please, this is simple math. That leaves us about 350. We told the town in May when they approved the budget, we were reaching into the surplus to keep the mill rate down. We said that we would have a surplus of about 10.5%. If we were to contribute to 300, that would put us back to the 12 that we have, I have said, we are comfortable with.
Yep.
And all the world is, everything else in the
And
world
remember-
holds together.
Remember, these are the wonderful things about having this surplus is that we are able to utilize it for things like the unanticipated increase at the schools, so which really is what drove our whole budget this year was the schools. But by borrowing from it, we need to pay it back. So building up to 12% is 13 is really it's a comfortable spot for me.
How's the public meeting in a couple of weeks for the school for another 600-some thousand? How's that gonna affect us?
What's 600,000?
I'm not even aware of that.
Those are no-
Security engine.
Security.
Oh,
Security is
yeah.
632,000, I believe, there's a 600-some thousand. How's that gonna affect us? Probably gonna be on your ADM.
Well, that'll probably be on ADM. It should not affect us this year, but it will affect us next year. Yeah.
So that'll be another demand on the budget next year.
I would expect that it would,
If it gets approved.
if it gets approved. That's the
Really?
fun.
More?
That's really is the amazing part of all of this. Deep River, more often than not, gets outvoted by the other two towns for these school budgets. And if you look at our budget over the last 8 years, 10 years, all of our increases have been driven by the school. Our general government has been a flat government for at least 8 years.
You're like a kid that always gets bullied, you know, stuff.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. The Region 4 is what's driving our budget. And, you know, I don't know what the solution is. That regionalization of the elementary school would only be a one year savings. There will be savings involved in that, and it's something that towns have to talk about. But I don't know. I knew that was coming. I didn't see that the meeting was coming.
Yeah, it's
And I didn't know they had settled on 600,000.
600, that's what the public knows, that's
Crazy.
And if that comes to us, that comes out.
The project that was approved at referendum a couple of years
That's why I'm
ago,
asking.
when it got down to the nitty-gritty of
Yeah, increase.
meeting the requirements for building and all that, that amount didn't cover what legally
That's
they
right.
have to do.
You were actually.
I was
Why
part
did
of
it
it.
come to us first before going to the town?
Because it's Regional 4.
It's Region 4.
Gotcha.
So that referendum approved X number of dollars. When it started to actually get down to it, that X number of dollars didn't meet what is required by statutes and regulations and all that kind of stuff. Thus, now it's $500,000-$600,000 more.
Yeah, they put the cart way before the
They
horse.
put the cart ahead of the horse.
Who's the they?
Region 4.
And is construction costs on what, the high school, the middle school?
It's the increased security for the middle school, to reconfigure the entrances to the middle school for security.
Does it address, what's his name, Brian White, does it address his presentation to us about, you know, the extra baseball fields or soccer
No,
fields?
no,
or
this is
tennis
totally
fields?
different.
That's
Totally
separate.
separate.
This was
That's
a,
not 10.
that was a 3-town referendum, what, two years ago? I
Yeah.
can't remember when it was. Yeah.
Would say Board of Finance are interested in increasing our road maintenance line item? What
Could I ask
dollar
one more
amount are you
question
tolerant
first,
to increase?
before we do that? On our budget, we have 2 line items. One's general road highway maintenance, which there's an allotment of $200,000 for, and then there's a town aid road maintenance for 197 something plus.
It's the 200, we have the 2 lines, the state gives us the 197, so we've locked that number in to what the state gives us in our budget.
That other 200,000 is also supplemented by state.
Oh, that's correct, well, we do have that
It's another
107,
104.
but that is the town's expected responsibility.
So both of those numbers are used to maintain roads,
Yep,
our town roads.
Yes.
yep.
And what would this 150, whatever we decide on, cover? What?
More than likely, it would cover the completion of paving Union Street from where we left off to Spring Street. And then I hope some effort, I think that would also contribute towards the completion of the River Road section of Patchen. And then we could move from that, continue that up next year and the year past on the plan anyways, to come up at Essex Street. I know you don't want to.
I went some speed bumps there.
But we need to address the
No, I
bridge.
just want a line.
There's,
A
well,
yellow
well,
line.
yeah, no, we painted, I don't know why it's not there.
No, you didn't paint it. There's no line there.
No, we did, we went painting out last year, but probably didn't paint what we paved last year. So, but
So you get your line when they finish paving.
no, you'll get
Well,
your
you can't
line.
see where you're going when it's a foggy night. There's nothing to guide you on the road. Plus, there are no lights up there. So unless you have really bright headlights on your car, you're in the woods.
We'll get a couple gallons of paint, I'll come up.
Good.
And all that would get done
The
this
only thing I would
fall.
like to throw in is,
That's the hope, yeah, this
Is
fall,
it
I didn't think
done?
it doesn't get done this fall, it'll be done in the spring.
with the paving, that's what I was gonna say, I mean, something, if we're trying to get it done this spring, this fall,
Yeah.
it's gotta have it done now, because the season's coming to an end.
Yep,
And it costs.
but we need to get bids in before winter too.
Right.
Yeah. So we need to know what we're doing.
And we will have to take this to, whatever the number, if there is a number, we have to take that to a town meeting as well.
Yep,
It's beyond our authorities.
yep.
All right,
So
we're-
this isn't out of the surplus too?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not in the budget, so taxes didn't anticipate it, so I think the answer would be coming out of surplus, yes.
Yeah. It'll be coming out of this year's surplus.
Right.
I mean, ultimately,
Out of
it's the
surplus, that's
surplus.
correct,
but,
yeah.
You know,
Yes.
the reason I say that is I've got Old Saybrook in my head, only because I just read an article where they're having a town meeting tonight, I think, to
Yes.
decide what to do with,
I read that, yeah.
their surplus, this year's surplus, because of all of the same things we just talked about. They collected more than they thought. They've got $3 million of surplus that they need
Wow.
to spend. We don't, I don't really ever want to have that. I mean, it's a nice problem, but we'll have that when we collect our taxes on Mount St. John's. But I think this is a really good use of it. I've been wanting for years to get this road line higher. I think with 2 or 3 good years, we could get caught up to where we're really just doing some good maintenance as opposed to constantly having to tear apart and rebuild. But with this budget of $400,000, we can't do it. We're constantly playing catch up.
All right, board, you want to increase the maintenance, town road maintenance?
Make a motion, Ray.
Got a number?
150.
150.
150, good. All right, got a motion?
Second.
150, second. All those in favor of increasing the maintenance by $150,000, taking it to town,
Contingency only.
please say aye.
Aye.
If you get your line. And make a contingency only if she gets her line in a row.
And that they don't pay us a street.
Don't go by the pay.
We need a line next door too, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
We
Actually,
do.
yes, we do.
We do.
No, we don't
Hey,
do
there are
lines.
actually
We
potholes
need
on
to
my road
have
that
stop
are going
bars, we need
grass.
to have that put in state.
Do we do the lines, or is there's a firm that we hired to do lines?
No, we have to hire people to do it.
Yeah. Next year we'll have buy a line, the next one.
I don't know, I'm really, I have to drive down River Road and see where Carmel's, where you're talking about, because I know we paid somebody to pay lines last year, and they were supposed to have done.
Ran out of
They
paper.
did
River Road,
not.
so,
Hey, but I need a motion to adjourn.
All right, our special meeting agenda has been satisfied.
So moved.
So moved, okay, we are adjourning at,
Second.
okay, I can't quite get what the at is at.
that'll be our